Movies. Alright, we all love a specific genre of film, whether it be comedy because it gives you a good laugh, or horror because you like to get scared, or maybe even action because it gives you some sort of secondhand adrenaline. However, as far as relatability goes, there's one specific genre that we can all relate to, and that is the coming of age. These are the movies that you see the main character go from adolescence to young adulthood. I mean, we all know what it's like to grow up. Some examples of coming-of-age films are Stand By Me, The Karate Kid, Ferris Bueller's Day Off, The Lion King, Superbad, Moonlight, Lady Bird. I can do this all day. Now, if you watch any coming-of-age film, you'll notice that the major themes that keep popping up again and again are stuff like rebellion, parents not understanding, forbidden love, sexual frustration, etc. But there's one theme that I enjoy watching the most, and that will be the focal point of this video. What am I talking about? I'm talking about surviving high school. Yeah, that's right. You know what? Grab your camera, because I want you to picture this. A young, misunderstood, angsty teenager who's either trying to climb the social ladder, impress a character who they've fallen in love with, or pleading with their parents to try and understand what they're going through. Now in this video I will be exploring 3 films that tackle the surviving high school theme. More specifically, I'm going to be examining their stories, their characters, how they're edited, the camera movements, angles, shots, the mise-en-scène of it all. It's about to get real analytical up in here. Also, for those who don't know, mise-en-scène refers to a film's costumes, props, sets, and lighting. The 3 movies I chose for this project are The Breakfast Club, The Perks of Being Wallflower, and Carrie. The 2013 remake specifically. Since I'll be going in depth with these movies, I'm going to say spoiler alert for any of you who haven't seen these movies. I mean, you probably should have. Except maybe the Carrie remake, you could have skipped that, but regardless, if you care about that kind of thing, then go watch them and then come back to this. Now, this is a video essay, but what good is a video essay without a video thesis statement of sorts? I'd say I want the main point of this video to come across is that surviving high school is a legitimate mindset that people have during those 4 years of their lives. Sure, we may forget about it the farther and farther we get away from high school, but it's coming-of-age movies like these that'll make you, like, time flash right back into when you were just an angsty teenager just trying to survive high school. So that's really what I want to do here with this video. I just grow tired of when adults try to downplay how much high school really doesn't mean much. Now, yes, while they may have a point there, it doesn't feel like that in the moment. You definitely feel like, ugh, high school. It's a jungle. I gotta survive this. So it's a good thing they make these movies to set as a reminder that those are such true feelings and they shouldn't be taken away just because an adult says so. Let's start with The Breakfast Club, the 1985 classic directed by John Hughes. Hughes also directed movies such as 16 Candles and Ferris Bueller's Day Off, and he also wrote the Home Alone movies. Needless to say, John Hughes is the go-to guy in the 80s when it comes to coming-of-age movies. In fact, and I'm going to say this next part with confidence, many people consider The Breakfast Club to be the #1 coming-of-age movie of all time. Before we move forward, it is important that I say that there are 4 big approaches when making a coming-of-age movie. And The Breakfast Club uses the Petri dish approach with hints of the moment-in-time approach. The Petri dish approach is when a group of characters are put in close proximity, often a high school, hello, and they're stuck together. No escape is not an option, and of course conflict arises, and they have to learn how to deal with each other and learn from one another, and that is textbook Breakfast Club. And the only reason I also bring up the moment in time approach is because there are shades of that, because in the moment in time approach is usually, those stories usually take place in one day, which the Breakfast Club does. So mostly Petri dish, but kind of moment in time, a little bit. Instead of focusing on one protagonist, The Breakfast Club follows all 5 of the ensemble, and they all grow from this. The film doesn't shy away from stereotyping the 5 leads as the brain, the athlete, the basket case, the princess, and the criminal. The way that these 5 characters survive high school is by sticking to their cliques. They wouldn't dare interact with people outside of their friend groups.
I hate it. I hate having to go along with everything my friends say.
That becomes very clear at the beginning because the 5 of them have no idea how to talk to each other. But there's more than just taking a look at the dialogue and taking a look at the performances to symbolize the themes that the movie is trying to explore. Like, the film plays a lot with music. For example, whenever John Bender gets angry, you start to hear metal music.
No, Dad! What about you? Fuck you!
The movie doesn't really play around with lighting, just because the whole thing takes place in a public school. You really can't play much when all you have is fluorescent lighting above you. But John Hughes does play around with the camera framing and the composition. For example, let's take a look at this frame that's on screen right now. This is the scene where it is revealed that Brian is a virgin. He is placed top right, while Claire is standing center left, and Bender is right in the middle of them. Now, for those of you who haven't studied film composition, usually when a character is placed in the top 3 squares, that usually means that they are the focal point of the scene, or they're trying to take control of the power dynamics in the scene. Now, this is the first scene where Brian not only opens up more, but also stands up for himself. So, as you can see, that's why Hughes decided to put him in the top right, because he's trying to convince Bender, dude, not a virgin, let's not talk about this in front of Claire. Before this, he was barely, he mumbles like, sir, we're really supposed to be taking this essay seriously, guys? This is detention, we can't do anything. But now all of a sudden, he's trying to gain control here in this scene. I'm not a virgin, stop! Now, are there any props in the movie that are used symbolically? I think Claire's diamond earring is. Claire's wealth and her status are important to her. In the beginning of the movie, it's what defines her, and she's fine with that. Or at least plays off like she is, just because she feels like she has to. But by the end, she gives her diamond earring to Bender to show that she doesn't care about the wealth and status as much as she leads on, and that she really cares about Bender. And after she gives it to her, he puts it in his ear and walks off proudly. Now, it's important for any coming-of-age movie to show off that your characters have grown since the beginning. And that 20-minute conversation towards the end of the movie between the 5 characters and them all opening up really shows that. Andrew battles pleasing everybody around him, especially his parents. Brian admits to being suicidal. Claire gets called out for her arrogance. Allison opens up to everybody about her manipulation, and Bender opens himself up to Claire specifically, not to the rest of the group. Other than that, that's really it from what I've noticed. I'm sure there are other examples of symbolism and maybe camera framing and lighting choices and all of that, but that's what I picked up on. This video is definitely going to be just hopping around to specific examples in these movies to show off the, mise-en-scène and the surviving high school themes and whatnot in these movies. So let's just move on to the next one, which is The Perks of Being a Wallflower. Now, this came out back in 2012, and what I find the most fascinating about it, just up top, is that Steven Chbosky not only directed this movie, but he also wrote the book that it's based on back in, I think the book came out in 1999. Here's something else I'm going to say with confidence, with my chest. This film is one of the most realistic takes on surviving high school that I think I have ever seen. It tackles subjects like mental illness, isolation, and of course, accepting the love that we think we deserve. One technical fun fact about this movie is that Chbosky chose to make this movie not digitally, but with film. I assume he made this choice because using film would enhance the aesthetic he's going for, which it does successfully.
It was shot on film. Everything from the coloring, lighting, compositions, editing, post-production, costuming, etc. It's all executed with such realism, yet never diminished in beauty due to that.
Also, I did want to mention that The Perks of Being a Wallflower uses the long haul approach when it comes to coming of age films. These are the movies where you see a character grow over a long period of time, and I feel like this is the right approach because the movie takes place over the course of 1 year. Now, for those that don't know, Charlie, the protagonist, is entering his freshman year in high school after his close friend committed suicide. On top of that, he's been battling depression ever since his childhood. But that's much of a summary as you're going to get, alright? We're going to get to specific examples of things that are coming of age tech-wise. Now, much like The Breakfast Club, this movie also plays a lot with music. The biggest example is Heroes by David Bowie. It is the anthem of this movie. Early on in the film, we see Sam standing on the back of the truck through the tunnel, listening to this song with her arms out. And by the end, we see Charlie doing the very same thing, achieving the same status that she has, which is being open, being free, being infinite, one might say. But what Perks of Being Wallflower has over Breakfast Club is that it did get to play around with lighting a little bit. For example, when Sam makes her first appearance in the film, she is blocking one of the football field's lights with her head, which gives her this glowing effect.
Maybe you know my brother then.
Hey, Sam.
Question. Could the bathrooms here be more disgusting?
Yes. They call it the men's room.
And this could be used to symbolize love at first sight for Charlie. IDK, just thinking out loud here. And one big thing for this movie, technically speaking, Chbosky does is through the editing. For example, whenever Charlie blacks out, the movie also blacks out. Thus, the audience can't see Charlie's actions during his blackouts, much like he can't recount what he does during his blackouts. And by the end, Charlie heals after his suicide attempt. He's diagnosed with PTSD. He reunites with Patrick and Sam. They revisit the tunnel, like I mentioned earlier, and Charlie stands in the back of the truck, feeling very alive, symbolizing his growth as a character. Case closed. Wait, actually, it's not close because, as I said, there are 3 movies we're talking about today, and the third one, it's time for it. Now, I chose Carrie because I wanted to pick a coming-of-age film that not only tackles surviving high school as a theme, but also explores the supernatural, and it's also in a horror movie setting. And I chose the 2013 remake specifically just because I felt like it. This is my video project. Is that so wrong? Is that so wrong that I didn't go with the original? Maybe I just felt like the 2013 remake, since it's made within the past decade, that it could do more technically, symbolically, and whatnot. Now, Kimberly Pierce is the one who directed the Carrie remake back in 2013, but she also made Boys Don't Cry. It's a coming-of-age movie from the 90s, starring a transgender protagonist. And after the Carrie remake, she's only mostly been doing just directing TV episodes. And Carrie actually uses the 4th coming-of-age approach that I have not even talked about yet, which is the big event approach. It's when a big event happens with enough gravitational force that affects every single character somehow, some way. And I feel like it's pretty obvious that the big event in this movie is prom night. And if for whatever reason you don't know what Carrie is about, it's this protagonist who grows up in a very sheltered life. She suffers abuse from her religious mother, gets bullied by people from school, and turns out that she has supernatural powers. Go figure. Right off the top here, I think that blood is a big thing that is symbolic in this movie, because the film starts with Carrie's period incident at school, then it goes to Chris deciding to do this pig blood prank on Carrie, and then Carrie smears everyone's bloods all over that gymnasium. Yeah, now the film does play a little bit with lighting. It's mostly realistic lighting, but we do see quite a bit of red lighting. Whenever you see red lighting in a film, that usually means passion, danger, power. Clearly in this case, it's used for danger and power. And one last technical thing that I noticed is that the film plays a lot with cinematography. Most of the shots in this movie are handheld and a lot of panning around. But there is one specific example that I wanted to talk about, and that is a very unique angle I saw. It happens once Carrie makes it back to her house after prom. The camera performs a Dutch angle, almost making it look like Carrie's controlling the camera with her abilities, which, a little fourth wall breaking, hello? But a Dutch angle in a film is usually used to make the viewers feel uneasy and disoriented, which, given the slew of murders we had just watched over the past few scenes, I think that's a pretty easy mindset to be in. By the end, Carrie kills her own mother, spares Sue's life because she senses that Sue is pregnant, and she causes her house to collapse, thus killing herself. Apparently. Yeah, so not the best coming-of-age movie, but I wanted to make sure I chose one for this video where the protagonist doesn't actually survive high school. So, to bring it back to my good old thesis, if analyzing these 3 movies has taught me anything, it's that surviving high school is such a real mindset when you're going through those 4 years of your life. No matter how long ago high school was for you, it's coming-of-age movies like these that'll mentally send you right back there. Who knows, maybe you chose pleasing your parents and friend group over being your true self. Maybe during that time you were struggling with mental health. or maybe it feels like the whole world is against you. If this video has taught you anything, I hope it's to look beyond stuff like the writing and the performances to pick up on themes. Keep an eye on technical choices, whether it's through the editing, the cinematography, the lighting, etc. As long as the filmmaker knows what they're doing, there's bound to be good old-fashioned symbolism there for you to pick up on. In conclusion, you see us how you want to see us, we choose the love we think we deserve, and don't bully people with powers. Bye.